This is NBC Nightly News. With John Chancellor in New York and David Brinkley in Washington.
Good evening. Bing Crosby died today. He was 73. It happened quickly and in a place he very much liked to be, on the golf course, this one in Spain, where he collapsed on the 17th hole and was pronounced dead shortly after. Our segment 3 this evening, coming up shortly, will have other details and a look at Crosby's great career. John?
There was a special meeting at the White House today between President Carter and the leader of Panama, General Omar Torrijos. At the end of it, both men said they had successfully resolved differences of interpretation of the Panama Canal Treaty. Questions had been raised about priority passage for American ships in times of emergency and about the right of the United States to intervene to protect the canal. All settled, they said today. Judy Woodruff was there.
It was the second White House meeting between President Carter and General Torrijos in 5 weeks. It was held to clarify questions that have been raised recently about U.S. ships having first priority to pass through the canal in times of crisis and about U.S. rights to defend the canal. Torrijos left to fly home after almost 2 hours of discussions. The president told a group of editors he thought the meeting between the two leaders had resolved those different interpretations. Beyond that, he gave few details. At the airport, Torrijos said through an interpreter that the U.S. would only intervene under one condition.
He said that as partners, he understands that the United States participate in defending the canal, but that the United States have no right to interfere in the internal affairs of Panama.
Minutes ago at the White House, treaty negotiator Saul Linowitz had a further clarification of the U.S. role.
Any United States action will be directed at ensuring that the canal will remain open, secure, and accessible, and it shall never be directed against the territorial integrity or political independence of Panama.
Linowitz said he hoped today's clarification would answer all the questions that have been raised about the language of the treaty, so the White House can proceed with winning approval in the Senate. Judy Woodruff, NBC News, the White House.
All of this, of course, was designed primarily for an audience of 100 members of the U.S. Senate. For the New Deal on the canal depends on Senate ratification. And how did the administration fare on that score? Tom Pettit has some answers.
The Carter-Torrijos declaration does not seem to be helping get the treaties through the Senate. For one thing, the administration told only about 10 senators in advance of what President Carter planned to do with General Torrijos. About the time General Torrijos was leaving the White House this morning, 2 former secretaries of state were appearing before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. About the time Torrijos left the Panamanian embassy, Dean Rusk was promoting the treaties, even though no one on the committee knew precisely what had happened at the White House. The Torrijos motorcade was heading through Washington traffic and rain. At about the time, Henry Kissinger was saying, it is not necessary to rewrite the treaties to clear up misunderstandings. Bilingual and other ambiguities are of immediate importance to Torrijos. He has less than 2 weeks after his return to Panama today to prepare for a national referendum on the treaties. Not until several hours after General Torrijos left town did the Carter administration send Ambassador Linowitz to tell the Senate Foreign Relations Committee what had been worked out. It was an odd way of ending the committee's public hearings on the canal treaties, a closed-door meeting with Linowitz. The treaties remain in trouble tonight. No converts were made today. The 2 major neutral senators stayed neutral. Democrat Church praised the meeting but did not endorse the treaties. Republican Baker praised the agreement but said it might not be enough to satisfy the United States Senate. Tom Pettit, NBC News, Washington.
In the testimony today by former Secretaries Dean Rusk and Henry Kissinger, Kissinger said, yes, some of the language was vague and ambiguous, but he said that was the standard language of diplomacy used by all countries, including this one.
You use a denture adhesive. Which one do you think holds stronger longer? The brown one or the white one? Denture Grip. Results at 5 and 7 hours. Denture Grip up to 40% better hold. At 10 hours, Denture Grip up to 50% better hold. 50%. Now you know. It's your choice. That one or Denture Grip. It holds stronger longer and proves it.
You know something? I'm happy with the way I look. And I found that doing some simple, basic things to take care of myself sure has a lot to do with it. That's why I exercise and eat the right foods. And I've also started taking Geritol every day to be sure I get enough iron and vitamins.
Geritol. More than twice the iron of any ordinary supplement and some very important vitamins. Take a look at who takes Geritol.
Geritol. Every day.
These Atlas tires look identical. They both meet federal standards for strength and endurance, but we're removing our name from this one. Why? Because it's not good enough to meet additional Atlas standards for smooth ride and long-term reliability. In fact, these Atlas standards are among the highest in the tire industry. So when you see the name Atlas on tires, you can be sure they're top quality, and that means real value. Look for them at a service station in your neighborhood. Long mileage Atlas tires.
On the Persian Gulf, a hijacked Lufthansa jetliner sits on the runway tonight with about 90 hostages inside, held captive by 4 hijackers who speak German and Arabic. It seems clear now that this is linked to the kidnapping 5 weeks ago of West Germany's leading businessman, Hans Martin Schleyer. The hijackers say that unless some German and Palestinians are released from jails in West Germany and Turkey, Schleyer and those aboard the plane will die. Paul Cunningham has more.
As early as last night, when the plane landed to refuel at Larnaca on Cyprus, attempts were made to negotiate with the hijackers. As Cypriot officials tried talking with them, it was evident, even then, that they were nervous and agitated. The plane then took off for Bahrain on the Persian Gulf for yet another refueling. It finally arrived in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, where for hours it's been standing in the sweltering heat. And this may not be the hijackers' last stop. Dubai officials have agreed to refuel the plane, but there's no indication when or if it will take off. Their immediate aim appears to be to try to gain the release of women and at least 6 children aboard. The hijackers have given a deadline of noon Sunday for their demands to be met. In Bonn, West German government officials are saying safety of the hostages is of first importance and that they are seeking cooperation of other governments. Meanwhile, through a Swiss lawyer in Geneva, acting as an intermediary, it's been learned that Dr. Schleyer will be shot unless jailed urban guerrillas in West Germany and Turkey are released by 8 a.m. Sunday. Meanwhile, aboard the plane in Dubai, it's been learned there are 4 hijackers. 2 of them are women. Paul Cunningham, NBC News.
Valentin Turchin, a well-known and active member of the dissident group in Moscow, was, along with family and friends, allowed to leave Moscow today. The Russians simply decided to let them out, did not say why. Here's Fred Briggs in Vienna.
They arrived shortly before noon today on an Aeroflot flight from Moscow. The 3, Dr. Valentin Turchin, Kronid Lubarsky, and Boris Vale and their families, were met by representatives of Amnesty International. Dr. Turchin was, in fact, the chairman of the Moscow branch of Amnesty International, whose members frequently risked and received terms in prison or labor camps. The Russians were given new identity papers. Dr. Turchin said he had serious doubts that he and his friends would have been allowed to leave, but for the current Belgrade conference and its emphasis on human rights. He spoke of Sakharov, of Orlov, of those who remain behind.
These men, members of different Helsinki groups in Moscow, Ukraine, and so on, are jailed, and already Rudenko received 7 years of strict regime, plus 5 years in exile, and Tichy received 10 years. The only fault, the only guilt of these people are that they believed in Helsinki agreements and tried to monitor and to watch how the humanitarian articles are observed.
What were your thoughts as you left the Soviet Union, as you flew over the border this morning, seeing the Soviet Union for perhaps the last time?
It was difficult and hard, but I was compelled to leave the country, and it's even difficult to speak about that.
Later, they claimed their baggage. All they owned in this world now, but a new world for all that. Fred Briggs, NBC News, Vienna.
Richard T. Hanna, a former member of Congress, a Democrat, California, was indicted today and charged with bribery, fraud, and conspiracy in the spreading of South Korean money around Washington in recent years. He is the first present or past member of Congress to be indicted in this case. John?
A Senate-House conference this afternoon agreed on an increase in the minimum wage, which is now $2.30 an hour. If the president signs the bill, which is likely, that will go up to $2.65 an hour next January and to $3.35 an hour by 1981. At that stage, an additional 2 million workers will be earning the minimum wage. The president's energy-saving bill finally came out of the Senate Finance Committee today, looking not at all as it did when it went to the committee, and not at all like the bill passed by the House. John Cochran has the story.
By the time the Finance Committee finished chopping up the president's energy bill, not a single one of the taxes he wanted was left. Instead, the committee voted for tax breaks to reward homeowners and businesses who install insulation. The committee also voted tax breaks for industries that switch to fuels other than oil or natural gas. If the full Senate goes along with the committee's bill, then Chairman Russell Long will try to work out a compromise with the House. Long is willing to accept the House-passed tax on crude oil if some of the tax money is returned to the oil industry to encourage production.
If the tax is to go on crude oil, as suggested by the House, there will be talk about the possibility of a credit against some of that tax to help provide further incentive for people to produce more and to put more into drilling more wells.
Senator Moynihan was one of the president's few allies on the committee, but even he thinks Mr. Carter is wrong to blame his defeat on oil lobbyists.
I have not had a single representative of an oil or gas company come near me. Maybe that's why I kept voting with the president. If I had, I might have changed.
If Congress fails to come up with an energy bill that Mr. Carter likes, then he says he may use his authority as president to raise the fees on imported oil. That would have the same effect as a new tax. And he seems to be serious about that. He is also threatening to ration gasoline. Congress does not think he is serious about that. John Cochran, NBC News, the Capitol.
Last summer, we reported here on a drug, sodium valproate. It's found to be helpful in certain types of epilepsy, widely used in Europe, but not available here. Today, the Food and Drug Administration and Abbott Laboratories agreed to make the drug available to the public. Here's Bob Dodson in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Anna and Jim Harley are two of the thousands of epileptics in this country who could be helped by the FDA's decision. They both suffer from myoclonic epilepsy. Sodium valproate is the only drug that has controlled their seizures. Last summer, Anna could not get the drug because it had not been approved for sale in this country. Her brother Jim was taking sodium valproate as part of a university research program, and it had all but stopped his epileptic fits. NBC reported Anna's problem, and the FDA gave her a special exemption to use the drug. The agency also decided to re-examine its entire drug review policy. Today, Anna is back in school and is now practically seizure-free. Sodium valproate could help at least 1 million epileptics, and for 300,000 people, like Anna and Jim Harley, it is the only drug that will work. And call for a vote. The Food and Drug Administration asked an independent advisory panel to study the scientific evidence on sodium valproate. It did, and recommended approval. The FDA has informally accepted those findings. Sodium valproate could be available to all epileptics before the end of the year, and people like Jim and Anna Harley will be able to live more normal lives. Bob Dotson, NBC News, Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Why are these two men smiling? One of them, Israeli Prime Minister Moshe Dayan, is quoted as saying his meeting with President Carter last week was brutal. But today, through a spokesman, the president said the meeting was certainly not brutal and that he did not threaten Israel with diplomatic isolation if it wouldn't go along with plans for a Geneva peace conference. Professor James Mead of Cambridge, age 70, and Professor Bertil Ohlin of Sweden, age 78, today shared the Nobel Prize for Economics, mainly because of their work on international trade, which are regarded as classics. David?
Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis has worked for 2 years as a consultant editor to Viking Press, a New York book publisher. Viking has just put out a novel dealing, fictionally, with Senator Edward Kennedy being elected president in 1980 and a plot to murder him. Mrs. Onassis, saying she was upset by all of this, resigned her job today.
Last year, General Motors redesigned its full-size cars to help conserve our natural resources. They became some of the best-selling new cars in GM history. This year, GM introduces its second wave of cars in an all-new size. The 1978 Chevrolet Malibu and Monte Carlo, Pontiac Le Mans and Grand Prix, Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon and Cutlass Supreme, and Buick Century and Regal. While these cars are trimmer outside than last year, both sedans and coupes offer more headroom, legroom, and rear seat knee room. There's more usable trunk space this year for carrying things. And extensive corrosion-resisting treatments. In all, these cars are spacious, wide, secure, and with their trim new styling, in tune with the times. See them at your GM dealers soon. GM's new mid-size cars, designed and engineered for a changing world.
When I make a barbecue, I make a big barbecue. I make a big pot of baked beans, I make a big tossed salad, and I made a big mistake. I forgot to put out the A1 steak sauce. And you know what they say? A steak without A1 is a mistake.
A1 steak sauce brings out the flavor of any steak, even hamburger. It makes every bite count. That's why a steak without A1 is a mistake.
That's what I call a big improvement.
Our segment 3 this evening is a look at and a celebration of the life of Harry Lillis Crosby, known as Bing. His death today of a heart attack in Spain will come as bad news to millions of people around the world. Don Oliver has assembled this report on his career.
Where the blue of the night meets the gold of the day. Would you like to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar? I'm an old cowhand from the Rio Grande, but my legs ain't bold and my cheeks ain't tan. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
He began more than 50 years ago as a vaudeville singer named Harry Lillis Crosby. He died in institution, few remembering what his first 2 names were, but everybody knew who Bing was. He won an Oscar, sold millions and millions of records, raised 2 families, and was regarded as a thoughtful and decent man. The Best Actor award came for Going My Way in 1944, but many people remember his movie career best for the road shows and the running gags with Bob Hope.
I hear this country's where they do the dance of the 7.
There was to have been another road picture with Bing, Bob, and Dorothy Lamour this year. We're going to call it The Road to the Fountain of Youth. An army camp in the Second World War, Hope and Crosby together.
And little Ivy Divey, a kiddly Ivy too, wouldn't you? Fire-dee-dots and trouble-dee-dots, and little Ivy Divey, a kiddly Divey too, wouldn't you?
Guys, we got to do a show tonight.
A kiddly Divey too, wouldn't you?
Somebody's flat. Thank you. Now, don't you stare at me.
The 40s were the big years for Bing Crosby. His radio program was extremely popular. He sold more records than any singer before him. But the 50s brought rock and roll, and Crosby didn't sing as much anymore. He said later he didn't really try during the 50s and 60s because he didn't think the public wanted to hear his kind of music anymore. He acted, but more infrequently, and he did television shows from time to time. It was last March, while he was taping a show marking his 50th year in show business, that Crosby fell from the stage. He had ruptured a disc in his lower back. When he had recovered enough to be moved, he was taken from a hospital in Los Angeles to the San Francisco Bay Area. And later to his home in Hillsborough, where he recuperated during most of this year. It was 3 weeks ago he made his last U.S. performance in Concord, California.
You gone fishing? How'd you know? There's a sign upon your door. You gone fishing? Yes, yes. You ain't working anymore. There's your hole out in the sun. I know. Where you left a row half done. You claim working ain't no fun.
Crosby was interviewed at his home just before he left on an overseas tour. Why, he was asked, did he get into show business in the first place?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be in show business. I had heard the records and seen the silent pictures and seen these guys in person when they came to Spokane. And I went to all the vaudeville shows. I wanted to be connected with show business, even if I was a property man, anything.
Throughout his career, there was always one song that Crosby and his family were always asked to perform. This was a convalescent home in Laguna Honda, California, last December. Bing Crosby dead of a heart attack while playing golf in Spain. He was 73. Don Oliver, NBC News.
And that's our segment 3. Later this evening at 11:30 Eastern Time, NBC News will have another look at the life of this remarkable man.
Presto Fry Baby Deep Fryer made French frying easy and delicious. Now Presto adds magic to all meals with another big idea in a little package. Presto We Fry Electric Skillet to help you from breakfast to dinner. And the tempered glass top lets you flip and serve in the We Fry cover.
Easy to clean, non-stick surface, inside and out. A big idea in a little package.
We Fry Skillet from Presto. Innovation to make it first. Quality that makes it last.
Back in the days when jazz became respectable enough for concert halls, General Tire was recognized as a quality leader. It still is, with a wider choice of tire designs and prices than ever. There's our top-of-the-line dual steel 2 radial, our Sprint steel radial for compact and sporty cars, and for low-cost mileage, our polyester cord Polyjet. Quality, choice, price. General has the tire for you.
Jenner makes his run to the bar. He's over at 6'8 1/4. Jenner plants. He's got the lift. He's cleared 59. What a day for Bruce Jenner. Jenner's won the Olympic decathlon.
I put in 12 years of training getting ready for that day and downed a lot of Wheaties. In fact, Wheaties has been on my breakfast table since I was a kid because a complete Wheaties breakfast is good for you and good tasting too.
Take it from Bruce Jenner. Wheaties is the breakfast of champions.
In London, Freddie Laker says his low-price, no-frill flights across the Atlantic are doing well, averaging better than 70% occupancy each way, making money, and he plans to add a second daily flight in the spring. In Safford, Arizona, John Ehrlichman is serving 1 prison term. Today, a second sentence was reduced, and the court said he could be let out whenever the parole board decided, so he could be out by the end of this year. John?
Earlier this week, we had a story about the Great Balloon Jamboree around Albuquerque, New Mexico, an annual affair of great color and style. Well, tonight, after a long and tiring week, Jack Perkins has put the following story together. Short on facts, long on balloons.
We've been here for about a week watching hot air balloons, and we find something. You know, you cannot stand here and watch hot air balloons for very long without hearing music. If you're a country music fan,
You had me way up in the air, but you were there to see me through. You had me way above the tree, now you're leaving me, but I ask of you. Let me down easy, let me down slow.
That's our program for this evening. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Good night from New York.
And from Washington, thank you. Good night for all of us at NBC News.
The Amway story has many chapters. This is one of them.
We felt trapped in a gray world, dead-end job, stuck at home. And then we discovered Amway.
We started part-time. We built an independent business. Helped others start Amway businesses, too. We're building it our way, and that gives us a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment. We're living again. With Amway, you could make it happen.
See your Amway distributor.
And get the whole story.
That was some party. You stayed until 2. Now your head and your stomach can't play no one but you. Alka-Seltzer, plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Plop, plop, fizz.
Here it comes, upset stomach and aching head. The plop, plop, fizz, fizz is fast, fast. For heartburn alone, try Alka-2, the one you chew.
Oh, what a relief it is.
Enter the world of the high-priced call girl in Harold Robbins' 79 Park Avenue. Intended for mature audiences, parental discretion advised. Leslie Ann Moran, Raymond Burr, and Polly Bergen had an all-star cast.
You're the boss.
What happens at 79 Park Avenue? Everything. Beginning Sunday at 9, 8 Central Time on NBC.
What makes a Western Auto steel-belted radial tire such a good value? It's super strong with protective steel under the tread. Traction, it digs in and holds on. Mileage, this radial has been performance proved. Steel-belted radials, all sizes sale price now 30% off at your nearby Western Auto store.
Western Auto will be good to you.
I brought the punch.